Hey, Facebook family, LinkedIn, and YouTube. This is Vera Sadler with VLS Coaching, Women of Life Ministries, and I am here with one of my bestie girlfriends that I
Hey.
haven't had the opportunity, maybe about a year ago, 6 months, a year
Yeah,
ago, to
yeah.
sit
We
down
had
and have some
coffee.
coffee with, which
Yeah.
was, oh my gosh, it was such a great time. But we are here today to talk about author, speaker, coach, friend,
Yes.
sister, mentor, Miss Amanda Hill. And
Oh.
I and look at that alarming smile. Who wouldn't want to have her on camera and just have her just to share with us? But Amanda is a teacher and an instructor, and she has been doing such a great work
Thank you.
in the workplace, in the community, and in the
Yes.
lives of so many people and impacting their lives that I couldn't wait to get her
Yes.
on camera and to come and share with us about her great teaching. First of all, Amanda, you have several books. The first one I have is called The Faith Within Me. And
Yes,
you
that's
have
my first
taught
book.
about this book before, but we are here to talk about your book. And the reason, and I just said it before we came on live, we were praying about it, but you have a book. And when I first heard the topic, I will not forget years ago, when I first heard the topic, the power of the F word, I was like, F word? Oh my gosh, what is this? But if people will first hear this,
Yeah,
they, of course, their mind goes probably everywhere but where it should go. But
absolutely.
this is such, and when you hear it again, the power of
Yes.
the F word,
Yes.
it's so crucial and it's so critical. And
Yes.
you have to, I wanted you to come on and really begin talking to us about how much power this word holds. And
Yes.
so I'm going to release it over to you. And I
Yes.
want to tell you to start out by just telling us a little bit more about yourself and how this book and what the power of the F word is and how it was birthed.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It's so good to get back together. We always have such an amazing time together. It's such great fellowship when we do get together. It's just iron sharpens iron when we're together, and
Yes.
and I absolutely love it. This book came from, and the F word is forgiveness, and this book really came from a place from within. I only teach on what I personally know. And because of my life and how I was raised, I lost my mother when I was only 4 years old to cancer. And just really went through a lot throughout my childhood, not having a mother that truly loved me and was there for me. My father did the best he could with what he had. He loved me, with all he had to love. But through that, I personally had to do a lot of forgiving, not just with others, but also with myself. And so when I went on into the workplace, I noticed that a lot of people were battling with forgiving people in just your everyday life. And so I was noticing that people were preventing their own selves from reaching their next level in corporate life as well as personal, strictly because they could not forgive. They were so stuck on holding on to what they felt was right that they would just stew in that thing, and they would just justify why they should stay there, why they should hold on to that. And so that's where I would have thought, you know what, we need to teach on the power of the effort in the workplace so that people can truly understand the power is actually yours, and to no longer cold in a sense of subcontract your power to other people, because at the end of the day, that's
That's
really what
good.
you're doing. You're giving your power to someone else. And so you have to get to a space of knowing that forgiveness is not by any means for them, but it's ultimately for you, so that you can be able to release and grow and really reach the full destiny of what God created you to reach.
You know, I love something you just said. You said in the workplace, because so many times we teach this at home. And so a thought just came to me because I know I said, oh, I'm going to go by ear. But when you just said that we teach this also in the workplace, it needs to be
Hmm.
taught. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times we say at home, forgive your brother, forgive your sister, forgive. But lots of times we separate work
Yes.
and home.
Yeah.
But this, I'm just loving how you're saying that because we see so much happening. We spend so much time at work,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
then we say, well, you leave all that at work when you get there. But if you don't take some of these skills that should be transferable,
Hmm.
or these life
Absolutely.
skills or these behaviors should be transferable, even when you get to work. We go to work, we're like robots, and if you don't know how to behave when you get to work,
Right.
what do
And
you
that's
do?
And that's the thing about it, because in the book, I really talk about triggers and how that people,
Mhm.
things in your personal life can trigger and it pops up in the workplace, right? So
Okay.
you might have interacted with the person in your personal life. Maybe you had a very controlling mother or a very controlling spouse. So when you get to work, if you get that micromanager that is very familiar, those behaviors are very familiar. Well, maybe at home, you don't have that voice to go off and to get all that out, but at work, it just releases, and you just project all of that on that individual when the anger really lies somewhere else, and you're just projecting it on that person that's familiar. They're showing familiar traits. I'm sorry. So a lot of times what we're doing in the workplace, the same way you're feeling and what you're dealing with is the same thing you're dealing with at home. It's just a different face. So you have to be able to identify those triggers and say, you know what? Sit back and think about, say, wait, what is this? Why is this behavior bothering me? It's not so much the person. Why does this behavior bother me? And if you're honest, and in the book, I have, there's a workbook that comes along with it where I ask those questions. Is there someone in your life that reminds you of a particular person that you might work with or behavior that you work with? And so that's really ultimately that's triggering you and making you feel like, okay, this is why this bothers me so much, because it's the behavior, right? So sometimes when you can be able to look at the innocence, which is what I teach on in the book as well, looking at the innocence, right? So we try to make it plain. So let's say you get an email that's real snappy, right? The tone is just not hitting you right. Instead of jumping back and writing that email, sometimes you can step back and pause. I'm really big on pausing and saying, you know what? If Jane would know how she's coming off right now and how that's really triggering me, she probably wouldn't come off like this. But she has no idea. So I'm going to look at the innocence of this thing, that maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe she's getting, pressure on her from higher ups. And I'm not going to take offense to that. And I'm going to let that thing go. And so a lot of times, step one in forgiveness is just looking at the innocence behind it and not allowing yourself to get offended. And one thing I will add to that is, in order for you to get offended, you have to take it. Offense is something that you take, right?
Okay.
So you can say something to me and my feelings can get hurt because I'm human. That's okay. That doesn't mean I'm offended. But offense comes from a place of aggression. Offense comes in the face of like, I'm angry, right? So offense is a choice. I don't have to take offense to anything that you say. That's a choice that is a gift. I don't have to take that. Like,
wow, that's
no.
so good, Amanda.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to take that thing. So that's a choice to say, do I get offended by Jill's email? Or do I just look at the innocence and say, oh, she don't know, girl. She has no idea how she's coming off. It ain't even that deep. Let me go ahead and just give her what she needs and keep it moving. Versus taking the offense and saying, oh, did she really just pop like that at me? Oh, well, let me tell her about herself, because last week she messed up on this and last week she didn't do this. So let me remind her of what she didn't do. You took that. That's a choice.
So I'm hearing you. I just heard it where most people, and being a manager, who was a manager in the workplace for a long time,
Yeah.
I see now where you're saying people do not know how to separate, okay, oh, I didn't like that, to now I'm offended.
Yes.
There's two different barrels there,
Yes.
and two different ways to respond. Because things like you just said, I just heard it clearly. Yeah, I didn't like that. Oh, that bothered me. Ooh, that unsettled me for a minute.
Yeah.
Then just, oh, I'm going to grab that, hold it, walk with it, be offended,
Yes.
carry it all through the break room.
There you go. Tell everybody about it.
To everybody, and start a whole trail of offense.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So,
and now you're in the room, and that opens up a whole nother door. Now you're a gossiper. Now your reputation is twisted.
Yes.
Now you create this whole hamster wheel, all because you took an offense.
Instead of just, if it happened, now okay.
Because
it happened.
We're human.
It's all of us are human.
We're gonna get hurt. We
don't have grace.
It's okay. It's. I think this is the thing. It's okay to say my feelings are hurt. That's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying that tone hurt me. That email, there's nothing wrong with being hurt.
Do you think we find it, is it easier? Do you think people find it easier to be offended than speak out and say, Because I hear what
Absolutely.
you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And I find
Absolutely.
I'm the
It's
one that would rather say, "Oh, I don't like how you said that,"
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then just keep it moving because I don't want to carry that load.
Right.
But I think people find. Do you think it's easier to say than to
Yeah,
say,
because because society wants you to buck up. Right? It's like, we watch the crazy reality shows where they reading each other and they're doing this and that to each other. So you gotta have this front, right? Like you just all of this and all of that. So you gotta, I would rather let you know you made me
and it doesn't even take all that.
versus just saying, Vera, when you may not know that when you came across yesterday, that kind of hurt me. The way that their tone, maybe you were having a bad day, you may have no idea, but
Mhm.
just the way that was delivered, that was kind of harsh. And you might, if you're in the right place, you'll say, "Wow, Amanda, I had no idea that I
Exactly.
came off like that." And if you're not in the right place, well, that's on you, and you get an attitude back. Hey, at least I know where I stand, and I have communicated with you, so now I know how to move around. I don't got to pop back. Now I know, okay, great, no problem. I know this is how you operate. This is how you communicate. There's no more gray area. Understood. I'm not offended. I let you know how I felt. You communicate how you felt to me. All good. Now I know going forward, that's just how you come off. You're just hard like that. Keep it moving. So now I know how to communicate with you. So I think it takes a strong level of emotional intelligence to be able to say to somebody, I'm hurt. It takes you being vulnerable, right? And unfortunately, even from our childhood, we kind of stunt that with our children because our children will tell us at 4, 5, 6, 7, that hurt me. Why are you yelling at me? Right. And so because we like, that's not that, we do that back to them. So they start putting up a wall. So they don't want to communicate their feelings because they feel like if I tell you how I feel, I'm going to get in trouble because I'm calling you out on what you're doing and you don't want to be called out because you're the adult. So therefore, you're teaching them at a young age to not communicate their emotions. So now you created this adult that doesn't know how to communicate their emotions. So instead, they put a wall and they give the attitude. They're in a space of despair every time something doesn't go their way. And this is what we teach.
And they go into the workplace,
And they have the same behavior. They have a
and when
boss.
coworkers, teammates, and
Yep.
especially managers say
Yes.
something that they disagree with,
Mm-hmm. They don't have those communication skills. They
wow.
don't they don't know how to communicate it in an effective way. And so they have learned to just take offense. They've learned to I'm going to justify my feelings because I was never able to communicate my feelings. So therefore I'm just going to justify my feelings and I don't care how it looks, but I'm right and you're wrong because they have taught themselves that if I let that go, I'm giving you a green light. But they have no idea what they're doing to themselves emotionally, physically, mentally, and how it's preventing them to get into the next level where they're trying to go because now you've burnt relationships. No one wants to work with you. No one wants to deal with you because you don't know how to effectively communicate. Everything is an attitude. In their mind, you come off with a bad attitude because you have learned to get a wall whenever something goes wrong or you pull all the way back. I don't want to go work on that team because she's over there and she has a problem. And you're like, that was 6 months ago. Why are we
Right.
still dealing with that? Because you're still holding on to it. And so guess what? That whole team just got promoted because they made this special project and you still sitting over here complaining about why you ain't got no raise.
Wow. And I, I want to ask you a question about, so how have you seen the power of forgiveness, the power of the F word, really
Mhm.
effective in the workplace? I mean, hands on. Do you have any scenarios that you can share? Of course, you can't share people
Right.
and their actual, but
Right.
have you ever seen any scenarios where you've seen people actually say, okay, Amanda, I'm going to actually
Do this.
try what you've said
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
how it's freed me?
Yeah. So on a personal level, I'll tell two stories. On a personal level, and I write about this in the book, where I had a manager and she took a project that I created from scratch, and she took it and she put her name on it, and she took it to executives. And when I found out, I was hurt. I kind of stonewalled her in the sense of just didn't want to talk to her because I didn't know how to communicate it effectively. I really didn't know what to say because I was so hurt by it. I was more in shock, like, I can't believe this person just did that. Because of who I am, when I just thought about it, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna let this thing go. Like, I just can't, because I can't function in that space. I don't like that anxiety. I don't like that feeling, that uneasiness, especially seeing a person every day. So I ended up just letting it go. I never even brought it to her and asked questions. I chose to let it go because I knew at the end of the day it was my work. And if anybody had questions, they're going to have to come to me because it was my work. And so I just trusted God in that, and knowing, like, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. And I'm so glad I did, because I want to say, after I let it go, within 2 weeks, I ended up getting asked to join another team, which was a much better increase, an amazing boss. It was like just a total blessing on how that happened. And, I communicated with her. She was happy for me that I was going to another department. And in that transition, she ended up having a stroke and passing away at
Oh
the
my God.
age of 35. And
My Lord.
so I talk about this in the sense of, what if I would have never let that thing go? What if I would have continued to have a grudge about that? What if I would have shared and created a whole rumor mill around the office about what this person did to me, and then she ended up passing away? I would have got looked at real crazy around the office, for one. I would have felt terrible because my last thoughts of her would have been something bad. But instead, it was peace, because I knew we were in a good place. When, I had transitioned and we were good. We actually had talked the night before she passed, like that afternoon. She was like, I don't feel good. And I was like, oh, girl, you need to go to the doctor. Da, da, da. And it was like, chill. And she ended up passing the next day. So for me, it was like a moment of saying, it's just not worth it. Like, at the end of the day, we create such large issues over things that are so minute, when you look at the whole stem of life and what truly
Yes.
matters, And so I was so grateful that I made the decision to just say, it's not that deep. Like, just let it go. And because of that, I was in a good place when she ended up having a transition. So that's my personal experience in the power of forgiving. And I've had some people that I've personally coached who did not want to do it. And I just talked them through, and I said, listen, at the end of the day, this is for you. This is not for that person. And they chose to be the bigger person and forgive in the workplace. And it was a situation where the ladies had sat like right by each other. And, one was a real stickler. And I said, listen, you just operate in love every day. You just do what you need to do. And even to the point even to the point of, if you go to the coffee machine, ask her, hey, I'm going over here. Do you need something too? Just try to just soften it up a little bit, to let her know that you're not making a big deal about anything else anymore. It's not a big deal to you. You don't have to bring the topic up. If she brings it up, be open to be able to talk about it, but don't feel like as if you have to talk about it. Just let her know that you're in a good space. And so with that, she was able to come back, I think about 3 months later, and she said that they were in a good space. They weren't buddy, but they were good.
Right.
They were able to see each other and smile and walk through the hallway. It was no longer any tension. There was no more rumors going around the office. So it ended up working in her favor. Forgiveness always works in your favor.
Yeah. I think that's such a good place to be in, because we spend so much time in the workplace, and you want to go in, and you don't want to go in, oh, I hate going into this place, or
Yes.
I hate passing this person's desk, or you go in, your stomach getting in knots, or your chest, and you have all this anxiety and all this emotion and all this stuff that, as you said, it's such a big deal. You have all this going on that's so unnecessary, and you're like, and then your body.
Oh my God.
Your body is,
your body
you
keeps
being
score.
health, for those that don't know, that you are a personal trainer, I believe too. I don't know if you're still doing personal training.
No, I don't.
Work out.
Yeah, I work out.
You are bodybuilding and all that. I mean, rock solid body.
Thank you.
But on top of that, but your body, you would be able to speak to the fact too that your body would be taking in. I know that from talking
Absolutely.
to mental health, I mean, physical health people, healthcare.
Absolutely.
You remember Dr.
Absolutely.
Martia, she just did a training for us and telling us how much stress and different places in your body that
Mhm.
goes in. So I just think about that when, I remember I had an incident at work and just the stress.
Mm.
I had never in my career, I mean, I've been working since I was 15, Amanda.
Right,
And
right,
I had never, and I think I shared this with you, I had never in my life, since I was 15 till I was 56,
right,
57, had to go on FMLA until
right.
this incident happened at work. But the stress was so much. And I thought
Mhm.
my body was feeling it all.
Absolutely. Because the body keeps score. And that's what
Yes.
the body, you think that you're okay, but you're not. Your body, and I was just listening the other day to a particular scientist, and he was talking about how your gut actually has cells that look like and operate in the same way as the same memory cells that are in your brain. And so a lot of times when you actually say, I feel it in my gut, that gut instinct, he goes, that's actually correct. It's the same ones that would be here is operating in your gut. So that's why your gut health is so important. So you feel, I personally have a stress gut. If I am stressed, I feel it all in my gut. It is awful. So because of that, I've learned throughout the years, I don't operate in that space. If I know something is adding anxiety and stress to my life, I immediately pull back. I'm like, nope, this is not where I'm supposed to be because inflammation is the devil. And so you will create
Mhm.
unnecessary inflammation in your body just by holding on to that bitterness, just by not wanting to let go and being free. They're so freeing in forgiveness. And I truly believe even biblically, that is another reason why God tells us to forgive. It's even to the sense of the way he built the body, the tension that comes in to us when we don't forgive, the bitterness, the sicknesses, the different illnesses that we receive. Your immune system is science, drops dramatically when you get stressed out. When you're holding on to things, your immune. So why not let go? Even if it's just for health reasons alone, why not choose to forgive?
So, for those who are hopping in later, I am having a very good conversation here with my dear friend Amanda Hill, author, speaker, coach on her book, The Power of the F Word. Amanda, can you hold up the book? Because I have the
Yes.
older version and
Yes.
she has the updated version of The
Yes.
Power of the F Word in the workplace.
And the
But
workplace.
I do know she also has a workbook that's
Mhm.
along with it. She has, and I'm going to put up here now again, she has a free course that you can go to. It's called Keys to Balance, and it's the power of forgiveness, where you can do a training on
Yes.
this. It's a free training
Yes.
because I know that you, Amanda, have just a heart for people
I
all
do.
over to learn how to forgive. And one of the things we were talking about earlier was the individuals who are terminated from jobs, the individuals who have these situations on jobs, they go back. And it just came to my mind when I was talking about you coming on the show, how if some of these people would take your training, would connect with you, how
Yeah.
if some of the companies would have you come in and really speak to what is going on in their corporations, in their with
Yeah.
their teams, their team
Yes.
managers would have you come in and say, hey, let's do a breakdown of the teams and do some of this training, that some of this aggression
Yes.
that is going on, if you
Yes.
could manage some of this aggression, that maybe some of these disgruntled employees, that
Yeah.
even when they leave, they wouldn't be so disgruntled because they would
Right.
understand this, I have to go because of this reason. Can
Absolutely.
you speak to some of this about how I know, I believe I know your heart with
Yeah.
forgiveness because we've done some stuff together, but
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about how you would really just speak your heart,
No,
honey.
no, no, absolutely. So I love speaking in corporate settings, especially in small group settings, because it's a lot of people just don't realize how those small offenses can really build up. And
Mhm.
it becomes so much kind of like just a hill over a large mountain over time, right? You get this wall, this fortress that you've created around your heart where you just refuse to be able to receive from anyone based off of a past experience. And so a lot of times from a manager perspective, if you are coming from a place of understanding, it helps you manage different type of people, because when you see certain behavior types, you're not so quick to judge and say, oh, she just has this terrible attitude. Well, no, maybe she has trust issues. Maybe she was in an environment before where people took advantage of her. Maybe people would give her projects and take it away midway. Maybe people would say they're going to give her all the help she needs and then no one ever shows up. And so maybe that's why she's a little bit more pulled back as far as jumping in and helping like you would want her to be. And so that might help you with your delivery and making sure that you're covering all areas when you're talking to people, to get to know them and make it a safe space where they can be able to communicate and share their concerns without thinking there's going to be some level of judgment, or, oh, now they're not going to let me on the team, or they're not going to let them know, like, I want to hear your heart. I want to know, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this transition? You know, a lot of times there are acquisitions that take place within companies. And so, you know, you might have been with company A, but company B came and bought company A, but the employees stayed. Well, guess what? They might be a little anxious, right? They might think like, oh my God, they're going to let me go. You know, bringing in someone to let them know, no, let's talk about this. I want you to share your concerns. I want you to know that I care about your heart. If you want to, you know, let's talk about old management. You know, people always have, when you notice, you go like to nail salons or something, they'll put a big sign under new management, right? They want you to know, like, this is a new experience. You know what I mean? Like, I know you came here before, but come try us another time. It's under new management. So that's for the person, okay, the consumer, to say, well, let me see if it's a little bit different, because last time I didn't get the best customer service, right? So as a manager, this under new management. I know your old manager may have been this way, but I'm here. I want to hear you. I want to sit next to you. I want to be able to see what you do. I'm not trying to just delegate everything to you. It's just really opening up those doors to let you know that you care, so that your team can feel like they can be open to communicate with you. So once you create that repertoire of just a safe space, then you can go a little bit deeper and you can have those conversations to be able to, and they can share, you know, well, Tiffany over here is kind of rude when she delivers things to me. And you can get to those things. So when someone like me comes in and I'm delivering the work, and I can be able to, you as a manager, you can say, listen, this is what I'm dealing with within my team. You know, I have this person that's super sensitive. I have this person that's a little bit more harsh. You know, I really need them to work together. And I, type person that could come in and let them talk it out, not back to back, but with me. And I can be able to show them perspective and let them know at the end of the day, this is what we're here to do, how we can do it, how we can work together as a team, and how to not get offended in the process, right?
Yes.
Really understanding that we don't have to take that. We're all different people. You know, if she comes off too soft to you, that's okay. That's who she is. But we're going to focus on what she is good at. Maybe she's great at organizing. Maybe she's great at those spreadsheets. Maybe she's great at this and that. Let's focus on what her gifts are. If this person is too rough around the edges, that's okay. But what else? What is she great at? She shows up on time. She's reliable. She gets things done. Okay, this is what we're going to focus on. What is these women's gifts, right? So just really being able to teach them as a whole to look at things from a place of gratitude, not walking in there in a space of just being so disgruntled of like, oh, why don't you change? Because that's the worst thing we can ever do, try to change somebody else, but we can only change ourselves. And so just really being able to see and understand the power of forgiveness in that whole process of just knowing it's so, and you can forgive yourself too. Because I would say this, that has always been my issue. I don't have a problem forgiving other people. My thing has been forgiving myself, right?
Okay.
Because my thing has been like, now, Amanda, you know, you shouldn't have did that. You know better than that. Why would you do that? Right. So that's my thing within myself of just beating myself up of saying, you shouldn't have done that. And versus saying, it's okay. You're human, Amanda. You can make mistakes. You don't know everything. It's okay that if you're not a failure. Just because you messed up, you're failing. You're not a failure. You keep going. You're a failure when you quit. You didn't quit anything. Right. So that's where I kind of lay into. So I also bring that inside as well of just letting people understand the power of forgiving themselves, not just forgiving others, to make the full space healthy, to make everything come from more of a healthier space. I hope that made sense.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's something I struggled with. That
Mm,
sometimes I have had to try to overcome
Yeah.
is the looking at what I've done. So I've been one of those people that dwell on it too long.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And even when you repent to God, I still will go back and say, oh, but
Yeah.
Vera, I'll let my brain go back and think about it way too long. And then I have to say, okay, the Bible says who the Son set free is free indeed.
That's right.
You have to find scriptures
Yep.
to
Yes.
encourage, but I have been one of those people that have had to do something, had to remind myself that God has set me free. If you make a mistake, okay, I can't dwell in the past.
Yeah.
I've had to speak myself through those
Yes.
things. So I understand
Yeah.
that I've had to forgive myself and tell myself, well, if God set you free, why are you holding yourself in bondage?
Right.
But
Right.
that's a process, Amanda.
It's a
I'm
process. It's easier
glad
said
you
than
brought that
done.
up.
Yes, easier said than done because, especially as coaches, sometimes, we teach other people all these things. We're constantly sewing out
Mhm,
to other people.
mhm.
So then when we make a mistake, we get so hard on ourselves. Like, you should know better than that. Why would you do that? Why are you know what I mean? It's like, hold on. You are human too. You are not perfect. You are going to make mistakes. Acknowledge it, learn from it, move on. The same thing we teach other people. So that's something I've had to always do with myself, is to not beat myself up just over life choices, and know, as long as you are learning, as long as you are getting something from it, it's okay. You have to go through the process. That's what actually makes us free, is going through the process of learning it and sharing what you're dealing with. So we're not perfect either. So absolutely.
I wanted to ask you this. I don't know if you do this like in a setting, if you're in a corporate. We keep talking about the corporate setting, but I know it can happen in a just every day.
Yeah.
Do you, if someone's in a moment,
Mm.
something has happened and it's causing an offense, and they're trying to.
Sorry, someone knocked on
Okay.
my door.
Well, luckily somebody's not at mine, because those three dogs would just go nuts.
Oh
But
my God.
if someone's in a moment and something happens, do you need to go grab that?
No, they didn't knock him anymore. They're gone. But the dog is just like, she's kind of like, okay, what's going
Oh,
on?
that's what happened. The dogs are like, who's out there?
Yeah,
Go away. Get away from my mommy.
exactly. Exactly.
um is there a tool or technique you tell a person in the moment?
In the moment.
In the
Yes.
moment, like, don't respond. This is what you
Correct.
can do in the moment. To
Pause.
not, yeah.
That is the first thing I tell everybody. In that moment, pause. You have to, and because you want to come back so quick. You want to pop. You want to be like, ah, but you have to just pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. That is the first thing you have to do, because if not, you will 100% move off of emotion. So you have to pause, and you have to allow yourself to think about what is just happening. And you have to say, okay, is this me or is this them? And that's a process within itself. So sometimes if it's a situation where it's happening via email, it's kind of easier.
Right.
If it's in the office setting and someone is right there, you can still just pause and not respond. You have to practice that. When someone is saying something off the wall or doing something off the wall, you have to just kind of step back and just okay. You just got to do one of those. You just got to be like, okay. And you just got to keep, and if you can excuse yourself from the environment, right? Because you don't want it to escalate, because that person is still in their energy. They're still doing what they're doing. So you have to pause, take a deep breath. If you can, leave the environment for a second, go to the restroom, walk away, do something on that level. But that is definitely the first thing you do. And so that way you can really just have like a reconnaissance of what happened. You can kind of sit back and just think, okay, what happened? Did I say something? Did they say something? What's happening right now? And that gives you an opportunity to say, okay, wait a minute, maybe that was me. Or you can say, no, that wasn't me. They're having a moment. This is them. So I'm just going to stay over here for a while and not involve myself in that. So that is definitely the first thing I would say, is just pause. And if you can, excuse yourself from the environment so that you don't react by someone else's energy.
That's excellent. And I will say, now somebody's at my door. I will say, That is so true. I had an incident, I want to say, Amanda, probably 4 years ago. And this, because I'm bringing this up because somebody may say, well, you're saying that, and maybe it's not allowed or it's not an altercation, it's not. But in my incident, it was actually someone was yelling and screaming, and I
Mm,
mean, very, very boisterous in my face.
right.
And I I think a part of me was in shock,
Yep.
and a part of me had to do just what you said because I thought,
Mhm.
okay, I have to be professional.
Mhm.
I'm in the workplace,
Mhm.
and if I respond,
Yes. It's
if
gonna
I
get escalated.
respond, it's going to go from it's already here with that person. But if
Right.
I respond, I'm taking myself here, and it's going to get physical because
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, we know what we automatically think. My brain or my
Mhm.
my thought, my physical man said, pop her.
Right.
Immediately pop her, and she'll shut up.
Right.
But my professional and my common sense brain said, don't respond. And
Mhm.
I kind of like froze where I was standing
Yeah.
because she was standing outside my doorway
Right.
and was just screaming at the top of her lungs.
Yeah.
And everybody in the whole lab could hear. And I'm thinking, but my brain says something, like you said, something's not right here.
Mhm.
Something is really off. And so I froze. And people are looking at me because I think they wanted me to respond,
Right.
but I didn't.
And that's
And
good.
I'm so glad that you said you have to pause.
You
And
have
I
to.
started thinking, even the rest of the day, I thought, something's not right with this person. And
Mhm.
so when I stopped, they walked away, they finished it yelling, screaming about 2 minutes later, they went down the hallway. I took a breath.
Yeah.
And I did just what you said. I just stopped.
Yeah.
I'm like, did that just happen?
Yeah. And now you can sit here and you can think like, okay, what what just happened? You know what I mean?
Again, I
But
was
it's
like,
like, yeah, yeah.
but I will tell you, I couldn't stay in the atmosphere because
Mhm.
I was thinking, what if this person comes back and they still enraged for
Yep.
whatever crazy
Yep.
reason?
Like I said, if
So
you
I
can,
told
you
my boss
leave. Yep.
I needed to leave for the rest of the afternoon,
Yep.
grabbed my purse, and I went home.
Yep.
And everybody, I apologize. I'm not sure who was at my door, but I will close my door. Um, Sometimes people show up outside, and I have a very protective dog. So I apologize. I so apologize. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're
Um,
fine.
but so I did, Amanda, I had to leave.
Yeah. No. No, and that's you did the right thing because you don't know what's going on. And so the best thing you can do is exactly what you did. You have to leave the environment because you don't know what's being going on with this person's head. Especially when it's crazy like that. It's like, like you said, your instinct was let me pop you in your mouth real quick and shut and but then that's not the right thing to do, right? So you're like, I'm not about to go get a case because you crazy, so let me just leave. Let me just take a breath, look what's going on, and if you can, let me leave the environment. That is the best thing to do. And if for anybody else that's watching, if you're in that space and you may not be able to get up because you're not in a management position, you can't necessarily leave, but that's what HR is for. That's what
Yeah.
upper management is for. So when you're in that space where you feel like someone is just overwhelming and they're yelling in your face, you do not have to respond to that. You don't have to be on that same level. You can do exactly what we just described. You can very easily just pause, compose yourself, and go to your manager, or you can go to HR and say, this is what just transpired. I don't know what to do. I don't feel comfortable going back to my desk because I don't know what's going to happen next. And then they can take it from there. But I think you handled it perfectly because we just don't know other people's emotions. We don't know other people's triggers. We don't know what other people have gone through. And so, especially if people have been raised in very chaotic, crazy environments, we talk about that in the book, your childhood, adolescence experience define who you are as an adult. And if you have not got therapy or any type of counseling on that, you have no idea how to deal with those emotions. You're literally just mimicking what you were shown in your house. So if your household was always arguing and yelling and it was sarcastic and it was slick at the mouth and that's how you're going to act in your everyday life. So if that is something that you're interacting with is that type of person and you're not that person, it doesn't make any sense to try to debate with that. It makes zero sense to try to have a conversation with someone like that. The best thing to do is to walk away before it gets escalated into something way more extreme than what it needs to be.
And some people may say, well, why does she bring up such an extreme and thing? But I did that because I think in the workplace now, and like I said, I wanted you to come on and talk about this and forgiveness and behaviors and mannerisms in workplace, because I feel like there's so much happening in the workplace now. Right. And I think people need to be equipped with the tools. And the first thing is, one, to have forgiveness, have compassion, have mercy and grace for each other in the workplace. And then when you feel like you're stuck in the rock between a hard place, do what you said, breathe, take a step back, compose yourself, and then reach out to those other resources. And what I had to do when I went back to work the next day, I had to be professional.
That's it.
I had to do just what you said. Yeah. I had to consider a whole bunch of other options that were maybe the root cause of this person's behavior. Absolutely. I had to say to myself, okay, Vera, you are a professional. You have to behave this kind of way. I couldn't side eye her. Mm-hmm. I couldn't, being in the research lab, that person, and in the manager position I was in, that person would still need my help. I couldn't ignore her. I had to still do my job. So I had to be the bigger person and forgive her behavior. Yes. And so what you're talking about is so important to continue growing in the workplace. Absolutely. I know people will say, man, she's just puffing smoke. You're not. No. What you're saying is so important.
No, it's so important.
If we do it, it helps us.
It's in our everyday life. And, and in this book, I have a section that's really talking about discipline. And so in that, you have to create discipline. You have to create forgiveness as a lifestyle. And so with that, it's a discipline. It is a practice, right? So you have to do it with the little things. So even if it's something as small as you're driving down the street and someone cuts you off, right? Right there, practice forgiveness. At that point, look at the innocence. Say, maybe that person has a family member in the emergency room and that's where they're rushing to. Just make it up. That is 100% allowing your heart to settle. So you let it go and keep on driving. You don't got to go, Nope. Let them go.
And cause road rage, and then something else happened.
But what? You just like, oh no, they got a baby in the hospital. That's it. That's what they doing. That's what they rushing to right now. You make it up. Whatever you need to make up in your head so that you can walk in forgiveness, you do that, because you don't got to hold on to that. That's not for you to hold on to. Keep it moving. And then the second thing is, at that point, that's when you make the decision to let it go. Oh, they rushed to the hospital to see their kid. I'm gonna let that thing go. I ain't gonna worry about it. That's just,
again, back to what you said at the beginning. You have a choice.
You have a choice
to either grab it and hold it or let it go.
That's a choice. And so I'm not getting offended by that. I'm letting that thing go, and then that's where we come. That's the discipline that we're doing. We're creating that discipline. Good. We're creating that practice every day with the small things, right? So then eventually when the big things happen, you've already created a discipline. You've already created a discipline of forgiveness in your everyday life. So now when the email comes across, you're like, oh, she don't know. After a while, you won't even pay attention to stuff that people do crazy, because you just let it go. You have created this daily practice of not taking offense. It's just like, whatever, you just keep it moving. And then, lastly, you have to know that forgiveness is for you. It is not for the other person. It is 100% for you. And once you really understand the power in that, you will know why you have to let things go, because you holding on to it is doing nothing. This person's living their life. They have moved on. They've remarried. They got a whole nother family. This person left this company. They got a whole nother career. This person has, and you still hold on, but what happened in 1986? And then what's so funny, girl, when they tell you the story, you think it just happened yesterday. They got the same emotion and power. You look like, oh my God, when did this happen? Oh, girl, that happened back in 1986. You like, wait, what?
And you still living with that.
Still living with that. But like we talked about before, the body keeps score. So the body has no idea
that it was that
happened in 1986, because you are releasing the same emotions that happened back in 1986 in 2023. So all these decades, you've been killing yourself. slowly aging yourself by constantly replaying that incident in your head over and over. And every time you talk about it, you get your heart rate, you get heart palpitations, you get a feeling in your gut, you get tight all over again. You're hurting yourself. Forgiveness is not for them. It's not giving them a green light. It's not justifying what they did was okay. It's none of that. It's 100% for you. At the end of the day, it's for you. And when you understand that, it's so much easier. And even if you see them when they still got attitude, you be like, oh, honey, that's on them. They got issues. They ain't got, I'm over it. Like I ain't got no problem. I'm good. You know, and so it takes more energy to hold a grudge than to not. To think about something all the time, like that's too much energy. I don't have that much time.
So, you know, I just thought about something really, really quick before we have to end here. I thought about something really quick that I want to ask you.
Yes.
Is there one person that was the hardest for you to forgive? There was a major person. And this is being very transparent. I know the person that I really had to do deep work to forgive, but I'm going to ask you, was there a person in your life that you had to really apply before, not that whether it's corporate, not in the corporate sense,
so besides myself, because that honestly was the hardest person I had to forgive, myself, I would have to say it was my father.
Really?
Because, and this is young Amanda, right? This is Mandy. This is young girl, right? It was hard for me because when my mother passed away when I was 4, he remarried, and the woman that he chose was not a good woman. But what I had to do was understand my father's position at that time. Mm-hmm. I had to tell myself, my father was married to my mother for 16 years, was in love with her. She died of cancer. He watched my mother die. She had a house full, 5 kids in that house. This is a man. He's an engineer, architect. He has a full-time job. We have a home, pool in the backyard, all of that stuff. He's trying to survive. This man hasn't even had an opportunity to properly grieve. He's just trying to get someone in this house to help. Regardless of what was said between them, he didn't have time to scope out. We didn't have a grandma around us. We didn't have aunties around us. We didn't have family around us to be able to step in and be that woman figure in the house. So for me, for years, I had a problem with the fact that why would you choose her? Why would you choose someone that didn't love your kids? Why would you do that? And I had to really think about the innocence. If my father really knew that the woman he chose was going to treat his wife's children the way she did, do I think my father would have chose her? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no way. But he didn't know that. So that helped me to understand his position and know he did not, by any stretch of the imagination, try to hurt us. He was doing the best that he could do with what he knew at that time, trying to survive. Oh, I lost you.
Sorry, I was muted.
There you go. It's okay.
Okay. So I would say for me, it was my grandmother. That's really good. I mean, to go back and look at, because you're telling us to look at the root cause and not look at the outcome.
I'm saying look at the innocence in the point of like they get, because honestly, I don't think anybody, unless you're a psychopath, I don't think anybody ultimately is trying to go out and hurt their children or hurt the people that
hurt somebody intentionally.
And
most of us see the hurt instead of saying, but this is not intentional. We think it's intentional.
No, I don't think anybody intentionally wants to hurt. I think that people operate from a place sometimes of pain. I think that people operate from a place of survival. I think that people operate from a place of projection and a place of fear. And so when you're in that space, you make decisions that are not always the best for others.
Right. Me, it was my grandmother. She was long deceased. And so I'm bringing this out too, because even though she was gone, I had to forgive for all the abuse and the pain that she
Mm.
caused. And I just had to let go because it was traumatic.
Yeah.
And I
I
had
bet.
to forgive the pain that she caused
Yes.
me and my siblings, and I felt that she um placed upon us. So I said
Mm.
to say, it was holding me in bondage. You mentioned
Yeah.
something earlier. You said forgiveness is not necessary for the other person, it's for
Mm-mm.
you. So I
Mhm.
had to forgive the pain she caused me so
Yeah.
I wouldn't walk around with this pain in my heart anymore of
Yeah.
I was an abused young woman.
Yeah.
So I had to let it go. And so that's why I asked that question, because I wanted to bring out too
Yeah.
that again, what and reiterate what you said. Forgiveness is not necessarily for the other person, it's so that
Mhm.
you can let, because I was on that hook, that
Yes.
fish hook of unforgiveness, and it
Yes.
was holding me in bondage. And so
Yeah.
I took time to sit down and I wrote out what her pain did to me,
Yeah.
what
That's
her
good.
infliction did to me. And I
Yeah.
said, and I released this and I let it go, because if not, I'm going to be a bruised
Absolutely.
young woman with low self-esteem, low self-worth for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
But I am
Absolutely.
somebody of value.
That's right. That's
And so I had
100%.
to let it go. So I had to forgive. I forgive you for inflicting your verbal, mental,
Yes.
emotional, and physical abuse upon me,
Absolutely.
because you didn't know who you were as a woman.
Mm-mm.
You weren't
And that's
loved.
there you go.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
wasn't loved and she
That's
didn't
it.
feel true worth and love. So of course she didn't know how to love me. She didn't know how to love my mother. She didn't know
There
how to
you
love
go.
me. And so I forgave.
And that's exactly was my situation. My stepmother did not know how to love. She didn't even love herself. She was not loved. She was abused in every way possible. So therefore she abused us. You know, you can't expect people to love on a level that you want them to love. They don't have it.
Right.
They just don't have it, you know. So for me, I was more upset with my father for choosing her because I felt like she is who she is. She don't owe me nothing, right? My thing was you should have done better. But when I looked at his situation at that time, where he was at that time, I was like, no, he just didn't know. That was a hurt man.
Yeah.
That was a hurt man, you know? And so that helped me through that process of forgiving him. And that happened early in my life. I did that in, I want to say 20-ish years is when I decided to let that thing go. And it was the best decision I ever made because it allowed me to be free. It allowed me to be able to, like you said, have value within myself and know that I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be, you know, I do add value. I'm not a burden. You know, all those things that were told to me as a child, I know those are all lies of the enemy. And he was using her as a way to come in to destroy what was in me. See, and I had to realize on a spiritual level, I had to realize that that attack was to kill me, what's in me, what I'm giving, what I'm birthing every day. Her job, she was used to try to destroy this, what's happening today. And so when you understand that you have purpose in this world, you learn to let stuff go. It's like this is baggage. You know, it's kind of like when you move from house to house and you go through, it's like, okay, what we gonna keep, what we gonna give away, what we gonna put in the trash. You know, sometimes you gotta do that in your own mental health, right? Okay, what we gonna keep, what we gonna put in the trash. Like this is why am I holding on to this thought? Why am I holding on to this image of what I think is right or wrong or how I feel? Like why am I holding on to this? How is this serving me? That was
Right.
my thing. You know, it's like me being mad. How is this serving me? How is this helping me be a better mother? How is this helping me be a better friend? How is this helping me be a better anything by holding on to this? It's not. So let's let it go. Yeah.
Well, guys, I was here with Amanda. I have to sign off now, but I have put her website, Keys to Balance, for her course. I'm going to have you come back, or we're going to have to meet
Yes.
again. But please go to her course and do the Power Forgiveness training. I have also, here is her website. Let's show this, Amanda V. Hill. Get on link onto her website, get all her resources,
Yes.
order her book. The
Yes.
power of the F word. Do her training again. Go and get her training. Amanda, I love you. I
I love
appreciate
you.
you. I thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yes.
And I can't wait to hear the results of all the people that come back and say they've done your training.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being here. Love you, girl.
Thank you so much
And
for
talk
having
to you
me.
again soon.